Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area School District Board of Education on February the 27th, 2023 at 7 p.m. If I can get started with a roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Ms. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Mrs. McGinley?
Here.
Mr. De Vera?
Here.
All right, and first up is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we have an agenda in front of us which needs an approval. If I can get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
And we have an approved agenda. Board members, please make sure your phones are off the table and on silent. And first up on our agenda is special recognition and presentations, our January Athletes of the Month.
I hope that was for the athletes and not me. Happy to be here to present our January Athletes of the Month. First up, Coach Mike Hrushka to present our male Athlete of the Month for January, Grayson Conkiel.
Hi, everybody. I want to apologize to Grayson off the start because I may call him Ender because I got 4 children at home. I got 2 girls and 2 boys, and I always get their names mixed up. So, had a great January. He won a tournament that we haven't won in 20 years. Basically, the Lake County tournament, which we used to have years ago, and then it went away. We had our conference, and our conference changed. We're back to the Lake County tournament. And he won this. For the first time in 20 years, a Round Lake wrestlers won this competition. So it's fantastic that he did this. On top of that, his season record was 31 wins, which, again, put him on the banner. We have a banner for people to get 30 or more wins. So he's up there again. He was up there from last year as well. He had 17 falls this year, which is by far and away led the team in falls. Which is pins, if you don't know what falls mean. Anyways, outstanding. He's got currently 75 wins in his career, which puts him at a good pace if he has, barring injury, to be one of the top 10 wrestlers of all time in total wins. So those are just some of his accomplishments. But more importantly is the quality of this young man. He's one of the best captains I've had since his brother. It's something about these Concos. They're very giving of their time and everything, and they don't want nothing in return. So that's one of the greatest things about these guys. I'm so glad that I get to have all of them back next year as well, including his brother, who's on the coaching staff. We also have his sister, who was a freshman and went downstate. We'll talk about that probably in a month or so. And then obviously him, who's going to be a senior next year, and hopefully he gets over 100 wins. Hopefully he goes downstate, which is one of the things that he's really looking to do. And I'm just so happy to have this family at Round Lake. It's unbelievable. So anyways, thanks, Grayson Concow.
All right, and ready? Okay. Our female athlete of the month for January, girls basketball, is Lily Burton. Here to present Lily is head coach Molly Hennig.
So I feel like I've stood up here the last 4 years speaking about Lily, so I had to, put a little twist on it. Really what she did this year. So she scored her 1,000th point in the month of January at our MLK tournament. We won the tournament, beating a really tough Palatine team, and she was named to the all-tournament team and was the tournament MVP. Then that week as well, she was named the All-Area Player of the Week by the Chicago Tribune, and then she also was nominated for the IHSA Player of the Week, but she's like in the top 4. So we've never had anyone make the top 4 of that either. And then she also moved into 4th time all-time Panthers career scoring in school history. So she ended the season, I know it's not January, but she ended with 1,243 points, which including COVID season is quite a bit. Also in January, I'm going off script, I also got to have Lily start coming into my classroom as well as part of the teacher program here, and see her teach her first small group. So that was just a cool dynamic as her January started and just like got on this winning streak and everything else. I also got to see her in the classroom. So it's been really fun. She's teaching her first lesson tomorrow, like whole group lesson. So that's exciting. So then also she was named NLCC All-Conference Team again. 4 years she made that, which hasn't happened here by a freshman since we've been in this, or by someone all 4 years since they were a freshman, since we've been in the new conference. And then I think that's it. I mean, yeah, I think that's it. Did I forget anything? All right, so basically she's one of a kind, and she's definitely someone we're going to miss as she moves forward next year to play softball at Augustana, not basketball.
All right, next we get to keep the fun going with the Round Lake Exchange Club Youth of the Month.
Good evening, everybody. I've had a chance to introduce a student each month, and I would say that Mariella Ortiz is probably one of the most well-rounded students that I've got an opportunity to introduce. Does an amazing job in the school, but also does an amazing job for our community. I'm really proud of her for that. So I just want to run through this rather long list of accomplishments that Mariella has had here as a student, as a community member, and somebody who gives back. So currently, her GPA, she has a 4.25 GPA, has been in 18 AP and honors classes, as a member of our student council, our Somos Club, has been in our Future Medical Panthers for 4 years, and will pursue a medical endeavor at Elmhurst University in the fall. She was a Panther crew leader, a new student liaison, a member of our National Honor Society, French Honor Society, and also has extensive volunteer experience within our community in church groups, Feed My Starving Children, and volunteers within our building in our counseling office 45 minutes every single school day. In addition to all this, she's also works in our community, works at KFC, and has been there since 2021. So you can see that also consistency is something that's very important to Mariella. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mariella Ortiz as our the Exchange Club's Youth of the Month.
Hello, everyone. So for my Youth of the Month essay, my topic was to choose someone who really inspires me. So I chose my brother. He's not here. He's in a different state. I am grateful to say that many powerful individuals had a positive impact on me throughout my life, but my ultimate inspiration comes from my older brother, the sibling from who I received my strength and motivation from. Chris has always been there for me growing up and has been my biggest help. From that, we have created a strong bond with each other. When I was in middle school, I would come home and begin my math homework. I would get stuck on a question, and my automatic response was to ask him for help. At that time, Chris was in high school, and I thought he was the smartest person alive, all because he knew how to help me solve a little math problem. I look back as a senior and realize how simple that single piece of paper was compared to everything that comes by now. But that's the best thing that comes about life. We learn as we go. Moving to high school was a major life event for me. I always believed that 4 years would take a long time to come, yet here I am, ascending senior, excited to go to college to begin my new adventure. Before this adventure starts, I had to begin the college application process in early August. With this comes inputting every single detail of my personal information, classes I've taken, community service hours, and the word essay. I couldn't have done it without him. He made sure I kept going even when he knew I had no more motivation. Because of him, I am able to learn from him and grow. Chris is my number one supporter when it comes to anything I do. Who could be lifting weights, and he is there pushing me to keep on going. He is there showering me with motivation. He is there helping me get through my semester. He is there for me at all times, even when times get rough. He listens to my problems and provides me with the guidance and cares about my feelings. He makes me feel worthy and seen as a person and as a sister. While I am currently a senior at the high school, he is also a senior at the University of Richmond in Virginia, majoring in business administration with concentrations in finance and consulting. Chris has always been brilliant throughout his life. When he was a senior at the Round Lake High School, he was a Schuler Scholar and State Scholar at Round Lake High School from 2019 to 2020. Once in college, he completed internship as a capital market analyst at Morgan Stanley in New York and recently placed second place with his partners in a national diversity case competition at Kelley School of Business. I am beyond proud of what he has become. He is my role model and the person I aspire to be in the future with great perseverance. He is a caring, devoted, and an intelligent individual who I am proud to call my brother, and from this, I believe he has a special part in making me who I am today and my future self. For that, I thank him. He will be graduating soon in the following months, and I wish him the best of luck with whatever he decides to do after. I admire how hard he has worked and how hard he continues to work towards the goal he wishes to accomplish. I admire that he was the person that would listen to my ideas when I was younger. I admire that he became my role model. I admire that I was able to learn from him, a supportive, hard-working, loving, and independent person, my brother. Thank you for being you and filling this world with great success and happiness.
All right, first up on communications to the board, we have property tax relief grant. Dr. Kibbens.
Good evening, Board. I am pleased and proud to announce that we have been selected for our community to receive the Property Tax Relief Grant Award another year. by saying another year. We are a two-peat for this award. We had applied for it and we abated taxes for 2 years. This was our kind of bye year, and we will abate our taxes pending Board of Education approval at an official resolution at next month's meeting, and that would be directly back to our taxpayers for 2 consecutive years. It will not affect any of our base minimum funding on our EBF funds. It directly goes back those dollars to our community.
I just want to commend Dr. Kivens. I don't, this is not a small thing. And just to call out publicly that I believe the last property tax relief grant that we received was $3.5 million. That's real money to the taxpayer. So, 3.5 million over 2 years then, now we're at 4.5, 4.2 now. Just appreciate you going after it because every dollar matters and it provides a little bit of relief for our community. So thank you.
Yeah, it's on the agenda for Finance Committee as well, and of course, conversations with Dr. Kivens. And as you heard, it'll come for formal resolution next board meeting. And then, of course, the communication to the public, letting them know what that really means to their tax bill. Obviously, letting them know that we received this grant, but what it means to dollars based on their home assessed value.
Thank you very much. All right, next up is our BSN sports agreement, and Dr. Kivens yet again.
We have the opportunity to have our middle schools join in with this agreement. This agreement was first initiated at the high school level. The opportunities then expand for rebates directly back to real dollars in our programs. There is a $50,000 threshold in there, which we've already met for actually several weeks now. And so any dollars that we spend just with keeping our program needs of what they would be will go directly back in a rebate back to our programs at both the middle school and the high school level. BSN has been a good partner to us. However, we do know that there have been some public concerns about their sideline store, not only with delay of products due to supply chain issues, but also some of their customer service, and that certainly isn't acceptable to anyone, certainly not our community. So I have had communication with upper level management. They are aware of that, and if parents or community members do have concerns, they should reach out either at the high school level or directly at the middle school level, and we will get that in contact with our building rep, who will take very good care of them because they're aware of our expectations and what we need to do moving forward.
And again, this was on the Finance Committee agenda, and appreciate Dr. Kivens and Mr. Karolzak taking the concerns of the community and product getting to those who order. So it seems like BSN wants to work with us to make it a good relationship for all. Of course, the next question is, being a unit district, we started with high school, middle school. What about our elementary program? How do we assist them in this rebate program? So as we've watched the success of the high school, now with the middle school, we'll watch that, and then possibly we can roll something out to the elementary schools for their intramural programs, such as volleyball and basketball, and getting them some equipment as well. But first, we need to do the middle school. But just to let the board know that we are thinking of elementary students as well.
And just to piggyback on that, thank you for that, because especially with the new rebranding that we have at all the schools, especially at the middle and elementary level,
Exactly.
with the new graphics and the new branding, it's a great chance for our parents to be able to get that new proper the proper cougar or the proper wildcat or the proper Viking, as the case may be.
Right. So.
And to that point, Mr. Francisco, the high school did receive an incentive credit. The middle schools each will receive $1,500, and they will use that towards branding. So whether it be mats in their front entryway or flags or something to celebrate the branding and their mascots at their respective buildings.
Any additional questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you very much. And next up is the 2023-2024 proposed student fees. Dr. Kivens again.
Okay, so this item agenda is just for communication this evening. Thoughts and feedback from you certainly are welcome. As we look at where our student fees are, had an opportunity to take a little bit of a trip down memory lane. As we look at what the 10-year aggregate was for our fees, in 2013, 2014, our high school registration fee was $195. Our middle school fee was $150, elementary was $120, and kindergarten was separated out as $85. In 2014, 2015, we decreased those fees. So the high school registration moved from $195 to $170. The middle school fee moved from $150 to $125. The elementary fee moved from $120 to $95, and the kindergarten fee moved from $85 to $60. Those numbers of fee cost have remained the same up until 2020, 2021, where we collapsed the kindergarten fee into the elementary fee based on curriculum, based on the instructional model. It was looked at that those materials and instructional supplies were consistent that of a 1-5 building. So in essence, our fees of $170, $125, and $95 at the elementary level, inclusive of kindergarten, date all the way back to 2014, 2015. And so in being respectful of our families and certainly meeting the needs of our students, we are proposing that those fees again remain flat as we move forward. As we do a quick reflection on 21-22 school year, fees were assessed, but they were covered under our ESSER funds. So families were not directly responsible for those, but we did receive those dollars back via the ESSER funds. And at this point, we are just looking for consideration of an increase of $5 to our athletic fees, both at the middle school and high school level, and an increase at the band and choir of $5 as well.
So again, this was on the finance agenda as well. And in reviewing, obviously we do agree and support the fees that are being recommended here. We did have some questions in regards to our technology fee of $50, knowing that we've had a huge influx of ESSER funding that really brought us to the one-to-one during the pandemic. That's when we were able to really support this and do this, making sure that this $50 tech fee supports that, as we know we won't continue to get ESSER as we move forward. And as we look at our budget moving forward, not that we want to make money on this, but we want to be able to support the program. Apple will be increasing their fees, and so we need to make sure that we can cover this to continue to support the one-to-one program. With that being said, the tech department and Dr. Kibben's office, they are working and looking at that going forward.
I'll just throw out, I think I'm the one who harps on it all the time because I have the child who decides they want to be in everything at the same time. But have we looked at or pondered based on the total number of, and again, I know that we tend to be lower across the board than the rest of our conference schools, but with that $5 athletics increase, with that $5 choir increase, especially for a student who maybe is participating in fall, winter, and spring sports, now that's a $15 increase on top of the $150. And then if they're also in band or choir or as the Concal's family was in both at sometimes, as my family has been in both and sometimes, now you're looking at the 5 plus the 5. So have we looked at the possibility of creating some sort of a family cap, much like insurance does?
The safe driver discount. I have looked at the family cap. The family caps that I looked at in our area were $300 for a family cap. So when I looked at where we were with the increase, I felt that we still fell underneath that family cap as well. To move forward with. Certainly we will keep that on our radar, but this year's research did reflect that if students were involved in multiple activities and sports, they still would have fallen underneath that family cap as well.
Yeah, that was a conversation at the finance committee. Again, I mean, everyone here has had, our students, 3 sports and then doing choir and or band or flag, whatever of their choosing. Even having our children in multiple athletics and fine arts, which is great. We love seeing that. And we want to make sure our families can still do that. We still fall well under, even just looking at our neighboring districts, we fall well below that. But it's something we should keep in mind, and we had that conversation in our discussion. We talked the last time we did do that fee structures when our fees were higher, and we did have that structure in place because we don't want to discourage our students and our families to not be able to participate.
Yeah,
But
we
that-
definitely discussed keeping a gauge on where that's at and where it may get to a point, but it's, demos is different here than it is in others. So comparisons are not always apples to apples, but we're constantly having that discussion, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a way to determine if there are families that are impacted negatively and choose not? Or basically you have to pick one sport or?
So we did ask fine arts, we've asked athletics. Fine arts is continuing to grow, so we're not seeing any impact there, and I don't believe we're seeing any impact with athletics, but I'll let Mr. Karolzak speak to it specifically. And I know, again, he's fairly new to the district, so keep that in mind as well.
Small sample size, but no, our fall and winter numbers this year were on par or greater than what they were last year. The 2 years prior to that with COVID, I don't know that it's a fair comparison, but we're on par or higher in terms of participation in athletics than we were when the fee was less, right? Because 2 years ago it was 45, correct?
Yeah,
So I mean, I can track that data and we can keep an eye on that, but.
And I don't remember who all sat here at the time, but it's been quite a few years. I think we said like maybe 10. The board saw that dip in participation because of fees and the economic environment climate that we were in, and we decreased our fees to give that breathing room to our families to join and do whether fine arts or athletics. So it's definitely something we keep a gauge on and read the temperature based on the participation rates that they are seeing. But again, we're not seeing that currently.
I mean, so total growth is one unit of measure, but I'm wondering if there's a unit of measure for families that may be choosing not, or students may be not being impacted based on. So the solution may not be lowering or changing the fees. It may be,
True.
are there other financing options, or are there other ways for some of the families? Because we know that it's growing, which is great, which means that the fee is probably right about there, but we don't know how much it could be if all the students had access, because, so that's what
Well, and a perfect example of that, Mr. Jewett, is we have Mother's Trust support our students that go to Tech Campus. I think we're the 4th largest sender for our students, specifically in Cosmo, because there's a fee above and beyond. So I think that's a really, really good point and something we need to think about. The other thing that I want to call out, we can't always tell, I think, when this happens, but we do have 9 counselors in this high school. And I want to thank the board for that, because the ratio is really good, and we work with our kids. If they have an issue, even for one sport, they can go on a payment plan. We're willing to do those types of things. The student I worry about is the student maybe that's too embarrassed to bring that forward and even say, hey, I need a payment plan. Sometimes they don't know that's a thing, but obviously I see Mr. Peterson out here. I think Sarah Schaefer, our lead counselor, is really, really good at staying connected to our kids, and it's just something we need to continue to monitor. So we do not want our students not to participate because of cost, and that's actually what Ms. McGinley and Mr. DeVere are talking about. I think we need to take a multi-pronged approach at looking at participation, other funding options, because I do agree at some point there is a tipping point. The number gets to a point where you are going to see it dip. It's just something we have to be aware of.
And just also for the board's understanding, we do not honor the pay to play when students come out. Their fees may not be paid by the end of the season. That goes back to payment plan or whatever we need to do to work with that family. So if a student wants to come out, there's really no questions asked. They'll see that come up on their invoice with, their fees or lunch, if they have an additional lunch meal there. But we do not discourage anyone to come out because they haven't paid their fees in full to participate.
Additional questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. And next up is summer programming, and I believe it's Dr. Steffen.
Hello, good evening. I wanted to give everyone an update in the memo that is provided. It shows all of the different programming we're looking at for this summer, and you will notice some changes and some consistent programming that we have done in the past. So just to give a brief summary, the kindergarten program where we partner with United Way, we will be continuing and have 4 kindergarten classrooms focusing on kids that have not had any preschool experience. Then for the elementary, we're trying out a lot of new programming this year. Last year we had huge success with the art bus, so we're adding a science bus to the mix. So you'll see kids doing some science out in the parks, which should be really fun. We're also adding for a math experience, a math trail experience, where parents can sign up for certain sessions to do some math work through different nature trails that exist in the Round Lake community. The STEAM tables, we've contacted the Round Lake farmers market up by Big Lots, and we're gonna have our own table where we'll have staff members there doing different activities with kids and families that stop by in the area of STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and music. We will continue to partner with the Round Lake Library, and then we'll continue to do some of those incentive programs with our online reading and math programs that already exist. At elementary, middle, and high, we will still have our extended school year for our students that require that through their individualized education plan. And we'll also be adding at elementary a specific program for newcomers. I don't think a surprise to anyone, but the amount of newcomer students that we've had to our district in the last 2 years has really been booming. So we want to provide a real specific elementary experience to support their English language acquisition, but also develop their Spanish skills. So we'll be focusing on that at elementary. Middle school will continue to offer a middle school summer experience, but we're kind of flipping the script on that one. It traditionally had been if you didn't pass 2 or more of your core classes, we would do a review of the content or skills that students may have struggled with in their core classes. But this time we're going to move forward and we're going to say, let's prepare you for next year. So for example, our 8th graders are going to do it'll be 2 hours a day integrated math, science, social studies, reading, writing curriculum focused on their freshman courses in human geography and biology. So it'll be a 2-hour experience for 2 weeks, diving into the skills they'll see in high school or in 9th grade. If they're 7th graders, it'll be what's coming in 8th grade. More in the idea of to get them engaged in what's coming and prepare them. Try to say, last year was a rough year, let's move forward and get you ready to go. So we're trying to kind of flip the script there on that middle school and prepare the kids and support them, get them engaged in school and rather than struggling through school. High school will be a lot of the programming you've seen before with our honors programming continuing. ESY, as I mentioned, newcomer support, and credit recovery. And then the final last thing, we will still continue our transition programming that we would offer in the summer. And the new real fun one is we're going to try to put together a summer theater production that would be for 1st grade through high school. So lots of cool, fun stuff, trying some new things, keeping some things going. But that kind of sums it all up. So are there any questions?
A theater production in 2 weeks?
That's on Chrissy. I think it's 4. We're going to try to pull it off in, we'll try to, I believe it'll be a 4-week June event. So, yeah.
2 days?
No. No.
Just a quick question. I love the idea that we're adding the STEM bus with the art bus. Will they run simultaneously, just hitting different parts within the community, or how's that?
That is a good question. Hold on.
It looks like Dr. Center.
What we'll do
Somebody
is
knows.
we'll alternate
locations and times so that we can hit different areas of the community with the different buses on different days.
We're aiming for Tuesdays, the art bus, and Thursdays for the science bus, and then alternating, like, if we're hitting, I'm just using this as an example, the beach, like Round Lake Beach, for the art bus, we're gonna hit a different area for the science bus, and then flip it around, so that way we're getting to each area we're going to, I feel bad saying visit, will then have an art bus and a science bus throughout the entire summer.
Was there a limit on participation when I walk up with my student? You're not going to say, oh, we have too many children, sorry.
No, we did cap registration at 60 last year, but we never turned anybody away, including parents and like littles, like 1 or 2 year olds.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we wouldn't turn you away, never.
Always welcome.
Children first.
They might put you to work, but that's a different story.
I was gonna say we may give you a shirt and have you help us, but yes.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Hearing no additional questions, next up is just our monthly strategic plan review. Again, great job with it in the color coding, so thank you for that.
Just briefly, I think many of these, I know you've heard many of these, but obviously I just want to call out the early childhood block grant, construction grant that we got. 8 districts in the entire state received the grant out of 240 applicants. The team is already scrambling in a positive way, working very, very hard. I know there was a meeting today, and I believe every week there will be one. They are going to be doing the site work this spring. Correct, Dr. Center, the majority of the construction will be done next summer. Is that correct?
The inside of the building will start in February of 2024 and then proceed through the summer.
So super excited about it. I also want to thank Mr. Peterson and Mr. Karolzak. I think all of you read. I think you probably should have known from us before you read it, but nevertheless, you read the information about our ongoing partnership with the Bears. Just very grateful for that. We are going to be bringing more information back, just a little more technical information. It's a very exciting thing with the girls' flag football. But I think I've been here since 2013, and we've had a long-standing relationship with the Chicago Bears. We're very grateful for it. They see something in our school district, and we're grateful, and we'll continue to kind of work with them to improve opportunities for our students. Also want to call out the Black History Month celebration on Friday. That may have been a celebration later. Sorry, but it's on our strategic plan too. And then our middle school principals went and visited with elementary schools as part of the elementary transition process. It's called a fly up. So just wanted to call that out. We continue to work the plan. This time of year is probably the busiest it will be all year because we're engaged in staffing and hiring and trying to figure out what the needs are. I would also say you should expect in the end of March, early April to see our first round of budget assumptions. That's kind of a normal process as we build the budget for next year. That concludes the strategic planning update.
Thank you. Any additional questions for the administration? Hearing none, thank you very much for that. And next up, we'll go to disposal of materials. Or as I like to continue to say, what in the world is Dr. Rowling throwing away this month? Any questions for Dr. Rowling? Thank you very much on that. Next up is the FOIA report, and we had it in front of us. Any questions from the board in regards to any of the requests this month? Hearing none, next up is review of contracts under 1,000. Looks like we do have one contract under 1,000. Any questions from the board to the administration in regards? All right, hearing none there. We will now move to public comment. Members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes of time of speaking. Electronic public comments will be accepted up until noon on the day of the regularly scheduled meeting, and the public commenter would be contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, the electronic public comment will be provided to all board members in written form. A link to the electronic public comment form can be found online. We did not have any electronic public comment, but I know we do have some public comment here, and I'm going to just draw first up for Ms. Kazia Kondraki. And again, just as a reminder, please hold down. We are streaming, so please hold down the microphone button so that you're heard online as well. And we do have a 3-minute timer. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kasha Kondratsky, and I am a parent in the community. My children's friends go to this district, and it was recently brought to my attention the behavior of a teacher named Peter Pederini. I'm sure you guys have probably been hearing quite a bit about it, but I wanted to share with you all some of the things that have drawn concern from several of the community members and that have been shared with me as well. So one of the things is that the behavior of Mr. Pederini goes against the Round Lake High School motto, which is pride, excellence, and respect. January 23rd, there was a school board meeting at Milburn, which he is a school board member of, and he made several comments which offended taxpayers. Taxpayers pay the bills. Taxpayers are who we are all working for when we work for any government entity, right? So, and as a school board member, even though you're not paid, you're still supposed to answer to the taxpayers. One of the things that he did was when my friends was speaking about her father had health issues and he left. I found that extremely offensive. I don't care how you feel about what somebody says when they're speaking at a school board or whether you're speaking at City Hall or whatever it is. You're not supposed to laugh at what anybody is saying. Another thing that he did was he pushed transphobic comments at the last meeting, which went against state legislation. I'm sure some of you have seen the Chicago Tribune article, which mentioned, among other things, was that he said you're either a boy or a girl. It doesn't matter what anybody here feels about a child's sexual orientation. That's your personal belief, and it's not something that you're supposed to push onto a child. That's for parents to decide at home. Maybe the child is also speaking to a mental health worker or whatever, but that is a decision that a school board member has absolutely no right to make any comment of. And when you are a teacher, I believe it's 2% of our population is transgender. I'm going to guesstimate that at least a couple of his students, potentially, statistically, is transgender. So I wonder how he treats his students in the classroom. Likewise, some of the parents of those students might be transgender. How might he treat those parents as well? He mentioned, I'm so opposed to this. This is like the in control version. I can't tell you guys. It's pure lunacy that we're even having this discussion. It's offensive we're even having this discussion. Unless someone says we can take money from your school, we're not accountable for that. And then he laughed that if a particular woman was there, he was prepared to have exploded over her being there at the school board meeting. People are allowed to be at school board meetings. He also said, I don't care what you think you are. I don't care.
We can wrap up. You have exceeded the 3 minutes, so if we can just wrap up.
Sure. Yeah, I'm making sure that, you know the comments that he said. It was also live streamed. It is recorded. He basically said several comments that included making comments about children's genitalia at urinals. He is friends with students, I believe, on social media. I know that he actively recruited for his state rep campaign with students, saying, oh, to new students, my state rep campaign is in full swing and I need your help. I'm looking for texters, social media posters, TikTokers, blah, blah, blah. If you can help me out, I'd really appreciate it. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. That goes against quite a few different rules. So if he's making comments about children's campaigns...
I do apologize for cutting you off, but you're at 3.5 minutes at this point, so I definitely appreciate the comments. Sure. And thank you for the time.
I appreciate that, and I hope that you consider his behavior in everything that you're doing.
Thank you. All right, our next up is Lake County Board Commissioner Isaiah Campos. Please step forward. And again, I will stress, as you well know from your board as well, we have a 3-minute timer. I don't know what yours is, but ours is 3 minutes, so thank you.
Hi, my name is Asai Campos, and I sit on the Lake County Board. I'm making my rounds around the town, meeting with local leaders, and I'm sorry that we couldn't meet under any better circumstances. My hope is that we can continue the dialogue and develop solutions in the future. As someone who has run for a county office, I've met countless individuals with different opinions on the campaign. I've heard it all. But ultimately, the people of this great county elected diverse candidates up and down the ballot. We saw our first Latino and openly gay man elected clerk. Our treasurer is Asian American. Even to our youngest rep, Nabila Saeed, even our Avon clerk is transgender. All diverse, myself included, the youngest and first Latino to the board. The people of this county have spoken time and time again. They stand for inclusion. The hateful speech that Peter Rainey had said on the school board has no place in Lake County. In fact, it's larger than that. When I went through boot camp, had I voiced the same language that he had, I wouldn't have lasted the first week. We're taught that we fight for democracy and freedom, no matter creed, gender, or sexual orientation. If we don't tolerate it from our military, why would we tolerate it from our school teachers? As an elected official, I understand that individuals may have differing opinions than me, but ultimately, I represent the entirety of my district, not the opinions of a few. And it is my duty as a representative to represent them with the values I know the majority of them share: love and inclusion. I don't have a child that goes to this school, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect my nieces in the future, or my constituents' kids who may go to the school, or even to my constituents who may one day learn that they have a transgender child. If we tolerate it today, we will tolerate it tomorrow. Someone with this poor judgment and lack of shared values, in my opinion, doesn't deserve to teach our children. On the ride over here, I learned of the email that the school had sent confirming the Round Lake Police Department's investigation into him, only solidifying my doubts about his character. Now that I don't know what this investigation or our FOIAs will produce, so I'll leave it at that. But ultimately, I know the investigation will be adjudicated professionally by our Round Lake Police Department for whatever allegations may come forward. I don't stand for these disparaging remarks, especially from someone who is teaching our children. And by the way, the issues that they were discussing about, they're state law. But he was right about one thing, but not in the same context he used it. It is offensive that we're discussing this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did we have any additional public comment at this time? Hearing none, thank you very much. We will now move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and Board of Education. We are pleased to inform the board that a proposal has been submitted jointly by Round Lake Area School District 116 and Organic Life for a presentation at the Association of School Business Officials National Conference in October of 2023. The title of the presentation is Food Service is Your Friend, Not Your Foe. If accepted, speakers will include Mrs. Negretti McGinley, Dr. Kimmins, and an Organic Life representatives, Jose Gutierrez, Eric Arlinsky, and Melissa Bung. We anticipate learning about conference approvals in April. We will update the board. Round Lake District 116 World Language Department will host a district-wide World Language event at Round Lake High School on Tuesday, April 18th from 6 to 9 p.m. The inaugural World Language Night hopes to inspire all students and members of the Round Lake area community to enjoy the diversity of our community and the perspectives of our world. Students in the World Language program work hard to master their language skills, and they also engage in critical reflection of differing perspectives throughout the world. This evening will be used to show off not only their learning, but to exhibit the richness of our community, where more than 30 languages are represented. Students, staff, and families will showcase their culture at this event through sharing recipes, food, artifacts, crafts, music, and more. To date, 29 individuals have expressed an interest in participating as a showcase in this event. Please know that the team is working closely with Dr. Kibbins to ensure that all health regulations are followed. The district will also be hosting an innovative classroom technology event in partnership with the K-12 Tech Forum and 22 vets. Christine Kenyon, AV specialist, who I believe is here this evening, back in the room, worked with partners to bring industry leaders to the audio-visual tech space, which includes projectors, displays, and interactive panels, together to highlight and demonstrate their products. The event will be held at Ellis School Wednesday, March 1st, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. This event is open to all districts. For the past few months, 4 of our teachers have been part of a cohort with Chicago Public School staff to dive deeper into ways to integrate performance-based assessments. On Thursday, March 2nd, 14 teachers and administrators from the Chicago Public Schools will be coming to our very own Round Lake High School to observe competency-based education, which of course we're a leader in that area, and performance-based assessment in action. The visit will include classroom visits followed by a roundtable discussion. For your convenience, we've included donations made to the school district and our schools, which include Midwest Dairy, $10,000 for the Round Lake High School girls flag football programming. We've sent information on that. Again, you'll be hearing more. Canteen vending, 10 cases of Fanta soda for the Round Lake High School dodgeball tournament, February 2023. Kimberly Rupin, upright bass. Sebastian Moore, star model. It's a bass. It's an upright bass. How about that? So that concludes the superintendent's report. Just a lot of great things happening in the school district.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions for Dr. Mendoza on the superintendent's report? Hearing none, next up, we will turn it over to committee reports and the Finance Committee. Fun with Finance.
Yes, fun with finance. Thank you. Yes, the Finance Committee met earlier this evening. There are a few agenda items that we will have later in the evening. So as previous cadence, I will discuss those as we get to those topics on the agenda. First up, investment update. As you know, Dr. Kibbenens has been really good at, as we say, making our money work for us. There is a nice table in the Finance Committee meeting agenda for you to review, but we have a few investments out there ranging as much as $10 million to as low as $270,000. Again, giving us interest yield as little as $3,000, as much as to $233,000. Of course, these are all different maturity dates and different investment types, from treasury bills to our pooled investments. With these type of investments, making our money work for us, we're looking at putting in an investment back into the district of almost $1 million. So again, just making sure we're doing everything we can to make our money work for the district and the community, and we're entrusted with that. We want to make sure we're doing our best, and Dr. Kibbens is definitely doing so. LinkedIn, the HR department, or as you know, we're always looking and trying to utilize different platforms to bring in the best and brightest talent into Round Lake. So we're venturing into LinkedIn with a recommendation of support of a 6-month contract with LinkedIn. They only do give you 5 slots or positions that you can post, but as they fill, or maybe we're not seeing any traction, we can slide them in and out. So we'll HR will do a test run, and we'll see if that becomes a fruitful venture with that. Hard to believe, but high school graduation and middle school graduation are around the corner. So we're looking at venturing with our third-party vendor for the sound system. We're hoping for better weather as well. But we're looking at that, so those contracts will come at the next board meeting. Kind of as we touched about the student fees earlier and mentioning the tech fees, as I mentioned, Mr. Kozak and the IT team, along with Dr. Kibbens and the finance department, are looking at something more fruitful, not only to support the program for the district, but maybe so that when the buyback is 4th, 8th, and 12th grade, that maybe those students, it's maybe encapsulated in those fees, and then we don't have to do the whole buyback. they leave at those junctures with the iPad. But that is being worked on. The high school theater sound system, as if you recall the last meeting, there was a part that wasn't going to come until March, came in early. It is complete, and the last demo we have probably wasn't as good as it could have been as well. So the next finance meeting, the next finance meeting, we're going to move it up a little bit and then leave some time prior to the 7 o'clock meeting so we can get the full demo of the theater sound system.
Or maybe tomorrow night at the concert? Question mark?
I don't think they're going to use all the things that we've added to the theater. So we want to make sure the board gets the full experience of what we added.
Small tier for concert for tomorrow night.
That's not my planning. But we want to make sure everything that we added into the theater sound system that we see where all that went to. 1 second. And that's it. Like I said, the other ones will come up as we go through the agenda. Mr. DeVera, I think we're good. Any questions?
They don't call him the best in the business or nothing over there. All right, hearing no additional questions, I'm sure we'll have some as we move through. Let's start into some approvals.
All right. I need a motion to approve the February 6, 2023 regular board meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Abstain.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Sorry. It sounded like you'd already said yes. My bad. Motion still carries? Question mark?
All right. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the accounts payable report for $1,578,892.13. The previous motions report, $106,137.40. The January 2023 Treasurers Report, the January 2023 P-Card Report, the February 27th, 2023 Employment Report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Larson, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Motion carries. Dot. All right, next up then is old business, investment strategy authorization.
I need a motion to approve the amended investment strategy authorization for Dr. Pamela Kibbens to invest a period of time not to exceed 7 months.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Can I just provide a little
Please
context
provide.
to that? Thank you.
Context.
Again, this is just a revision into what the board previously had approved, which was the 6 months. In Dr. Kibbens going out to find investments, we were finding they were just a little longer. So we wanted to make sure she had that ability to select that 7 months because the previous approval was only 6.
Thank you for that clarification. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, new business. I need a motion to approve the contract with the University Center of Lake County in the amount of $1,920.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any questions?
No questions, but again,
Clarifications?
yes, this was on the finance agenda. Again, we know we did this prior to the pandemic, nothing. Now we're back, and obviously the high school needs to utilize this space. We just ask, this is obviously something ongoing and forward, looking at the contract future, maybe multi-year, or what kind of agreement can we come to? And then just making sure this is planned out more in advance. This should be planned out that first semester as we go into the second semester, not second semester. Everything happens.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, you need a motion to approve the addition of one additional coaching stipend for track and field beginning the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Any clarifications?
Yes, again, this was on the finance committee meeting. Obviously, it's the start of our spring sports season with track. As you'll see in the memo, they've included neighboring districts and what, how many students they have in participation versus the track. We do have a very large track program with 172 athletes. It really is warranted and supported by the finance committee. And you'll see, I don't personally look at Stevenson schools, different category all in its own, but looking at our neighboring community and their programs, it definitely is needed. And again, that would come out of the general funds. This does not come out of athletics. This is something we have to budget for, and as you heard Dr. Mendoza said, they're working on budget assumptions for the next year. So we can support it currently for this year. Again, it's track now, and they want this for this season, but then we have to make sure we're able to support that going forward.
And Mr. Karolzak, do you anticipate any challenges considering the track has already started, getting that stipend position filled, whatever that word is?
No, we do not. It's my hope that if it gets approved here tonight, I'll work with Human Resources to get it posted this week. We've already actually had a couple of staff members reach out to our head coaches expressing interest if another stipend were to be available. So I do not anticipate having difficulty filling it at all.
You may want to I don't know what the association would say, but you may want to talk to Human Resources to see if they'll waive the 5-day posting requirement. If the season's already started and you have people lined up, maybe you can fill it with before 5 days. So just throwing it out an idea if the board approves it.
Thank you.
And then just as a follow-up question, based on the numbers that you provided in the memo, which was great, thank you for that. Do you anticipate needing to come back? Because based on the numbers that I'm seeing right now, our 7 going to 8 still puts us well below Deerfield's 172 athletes at 10, Warren's at 10. So.
Well, you're asking a former track coach how many track coaches he wants.
Yes,
that's a bit of a loaded question.
The microphone.
Bit of a loaded question. Yeah, potentially. You've got 18 different events in track and field. You've got 5 different event types: the horizontal jumps, the vertical jumps, the sprints, distance, and the throws. So, ideally, 10 would be great, but. Our programs work very well together, and there's a lot of crossover with the coaching staff. And if you're organized and plan, you can get the job done with 8, absolutely, without doing short shrift to our kids. So no, I would not anticipate immediately coming back and asking for 10, but I think it's something that, you know, we have a number of sports where I believe we need more assistance. That's a conversation for a different day. Yeah, it's something that we're always looking at. We want to make sure that we're able to give our kids the best possible experience, but also that it's something that's sustainable financially.
Thank you.
That's the key part, financially.
Absolutely.
Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Devera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the contract with an infant toddler mental health consultant, Aaron Smith, for the remainder of the 2022-2023 school year, March 1st through June 30th, 2023, not to exceed $32,016.
So moved.
second,
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any questions or clarifications?
Yes, again, this contract was reviewed at the finance meeting. And again, this is paid for out of the Preschool for All grant. This is something we probably won't see moving forward because it's paid for out of a grant. Wanting to make sure we utilize all those funds and that grant money being brought forward to us. This is the need where they feel this would be best spent.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Devera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve a Little Scene contract for the 2023 RLHS prom on May 6, 2023, in the amount of $3,850.
so moved,
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Questions and or clarifications?
Yes, and again, this was on the Finance Committee agenda. This is something that they've been doing at prom here for the high school for the last 7-8 years. So we've gotten the contract down to a science, thankfully, and is supported by finance.
Hearing nothing else, roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Devera,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the Pixter contract for the 2023 RLHS prom on May 6th in the amount of $1,445.
So moved.
second,
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Ms. Lee. Clarification?
Yeah, so again, this was on the finance agenda. This was a new contract that needed some clarification because again, while we are hosting prom, it's not our venue. This is bringing in a third party. Also, the equipment is rather expensive and looking in the liability within that contract and being an outside venue. Asked Mrs. Cacciatore to go back to get some clarification from the venue itself, because again, that venue contract is different in what it covers based on this. So long story short, it is covered also. Our insurance would take part as well, should anything happen to this equipment. If everybody knows what the 360 camera is, so you kind of stand and you do kind of motions and dance and it comes around you. So just worrying that maybe people who are wearing high heels and they're dancing and maybe they fall. I don't want anything to happen to anybody, but I want to make sure we're also covered. So just trying to go through all of that. So long story short, we're all good now.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the recommendation of Manville Construction Company to receive the W.J. Murphy Site Improvement Bid Award in the amount of $599,500.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Clarifications?
Yes. So again, this was the Finance Committee agenda. This is the parking lot improvement to Murphy. As I'm sure you're all aware, that parking lot and the sidewalk is in desperate need of repair. So this is the bid for that. So I'm definitely looking forward to this project being done for the safety of students and staff who walk into that building. It's long overdue. We're happy to report this came under what we had projected. That doesn't mean please don't go spend that money. There's still lots of things to be done, but happy to move forward with this. So this will take place over the summer.
Hearing nothing else, roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the bid award in the amount of $1,387,300 to Bear Construction for the Beach Classroom Library Improvement Project, paid out of ESSER 2.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Clarifications?
Yes, thank you. Again, this was on the Finance Committee agenda. This is the Beach is the last school that has classrooms and in their libraries where they're the open concept previous to like Village School was. Again, that's just to give them doors and full walls and all that good stuff. This will also be our first project with one of our new architects of record. I keep thinking just VP. Archon, thank you. VP, that's all that was, sorry, was coming to mind, with Archon. So very excited to have them do their first project within the district. This will again be over the summer, and again, this came in under budget. There is a little bit of a caveat to that with the fire alarms until they come in for that inspection. They'll let us know how many and where those are placed.
The fire department has the jurisdiction to determine the smarts and parts, so to speak, how many strobes, etc. we need, so they have to do their inspection. But we are happy to say that everything came in a lot lower. And I was impressed with Archon. If you look at the bids, they're very close. So that means the documents were pretty tight. So far, so good.
Hearing nothing else, roll call.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes. Motion carries.
Just review for the next one.
Oh, sorry about that. Year 4 strategic plan goals.
Yeah, so this is not, we're not asking for a roll call vote this evening. The team has been working on this for months, I will say it's a little bit challenging because there are things that we are working on that might not necessarily be on here. But we really want to reflect some of the targeted work, the boulders, for lack of a better term. I'm not going to read through this, but I'm going to call several out. In the teaching and learning area, I think everybody here knows, no matter what, after the April 10th meeting, we have a lot of work to do in preparation for bringing our kids back, our PLVAC students. We also, while that's going on, and I have to say in 10 years, the high school project was pretty big. The referendum project, that was really big. But we've got multiple big things happening, moving at once. You didn't even, I mean, Mary just talked about the beach construction project, and then we have this asphalt project, and we have other things to do. But the EC construction grant is a big deal. We're going to have to be devoting significant effort for that. Programmatically, we're really looking to take a jump. I feel like I can say, even on video, that we're past the pandemic. We're past it. I don't think, and I'm looking at the team, we haven't talked about it in a long time, but we're still trying to recover in terms of programming and those types of things. We really want to expand our competency-based education activities at all levels. Started out at the high school. We need to continue there, but we're also looking at the other grade levels. We also, meeting the unique needs of learners, taking another jump with a significant jump with internships, job shadowing, post-high school experiences. With the parent-school partnerships, really want to call out, I just had a meeting with Ms. Bennett today, continuing to examine the quality of our communication tools. And I imagine there might be a change coming, but we'll certainly vet that with the board. Hanover Research, you graciously approved an agreement. Heather has already, which ties directly to this area, collected information on engaging parents in the educational process. That's going to be rolled into our school improvement plans. We'll talk to you about that. I'm personally going to be facilitating an initiative with Hanover on district climate culture, specific to our employees. It is not unique to us, but I will tell you, I'm looking at Ms. Larson because she works in a school district. It's hard right now for people in schools. For a lot of reasons. And so what we're going to do is really try to get comprehensive feedback from all the employee groups, partner with, obviously my team would be involved, but work with the association to implement actionable strategies to help people feel, this is going to sound a little weird, more joy in what they're doing. So I think that's really important, joy in the work. So that's going to be done. We'll update you on that. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you look at the equity initiative, and I know Dr. Stefan is over there listening closely right now, embedding equity into everything we do instructionally and with our leadership, that is a never ending process. But we feel like we're at a point where we need to kind of take that to another level. And what's interesting is I think with a lot of the things we talk about as a leadership team, when we're making staffing decisions, hiring decisions, programming decisions, financial decisions, we are really looking at equity. We may not say it, but we know it's basically giving our kids what they need, which may not be the same, and also making sure our staff is supported. So we really look forward to updating you on that. And then we have a lot, I think you all know, I know you all know, we have a lot of capital needs in the district. And we need to be responsive. And so I think you're going to see a series of steps next year. We've already been speaking with you about things that we need and things that we are going to pursue. But that's going to be a year-long process. And frankly, the other thing I wanted to call out, obviously, Dr. Kibbins has done a great job with the investments, but really continue to expand the Grow Your Own program such that it meets endorsement requirements facilitated by the Illinois State Board. So, and for example, I mean, there's other things I could talk about that we are going to do. This isn't the only thing we're doing. So the other thing I wanted to gently remind the board of is I anticipate probably in April bringing back what we did before with our strategic planning. so that you can talk about options. Because next year, in addition to implementing this, we're going to have to be building a plan for the next year. I think when we vetted the last time around, we had three or four vendors. The one thing I'm going to investigate, and he's done this already. John Berkey is the executive director of LUDA. In my opinion, for me personally, I think I get probably more of LUDA than any group because we're like districts. We're large. We have K-12. I'm not saying we're better or worse than anybody. It's just we have a lot of the same needs. One of the things that's part of it would be definitely be an add-on. I just got to figure out what that cost structure looks like. Dr. Berkey facilitates strategic planning, and he's been a superintendent before, and he actually just did Lake Zurich strategic plan. I'm going to be meeting with him and talking to him about what that looks like. What I like about him, he's a practitioner, and he understands schools, but it's really going to be a board decision as to what you want to do. Another option is maybe to try to do it on our own. There's pros and cons of that. So what we would like you to do is certainly entertain any questions tonight. If we don't have answers, we will get them to you. But we anticipate bringing these activities and initiatives back for board approval at the next meeting. So that concludes that item.
Any questions or clarifications needed from the board to the administration, please?
Is there too much going on?
So here's what I would say. I feel like the things that are on here because we need to do them. And yeah, well,
Yeah, so I'm thinking about the joy piece. I know it's anyway.
So here's what I will say. The team, we didn't do these in isolation. So we looked at this, our team looked at this together. I think it's about the amount of work that we have in the other years. It's just, there's nothing we can do about it. We're going to get after it, and we'll be honest, if we need to pivot to yellow, we need to change. I will say this idea of, I think it's true of a principal, it's probably true of my team, it's true of teachers, the idea of workload, that's not just the work, it's everything else. Mental health, social, emotional well-being, making sure our kids have what they need. And this is happening in every district with every superintendent that I've talked to. That's precisely why my project on the climate culture is going to be the first one in the queue for that partnership, is so that we can get some information and figure out how to address it. So.
Thank you. For me, I really feel that's really important. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Hearing nothing else, we will now move on to positive occurrences, and I know we've got a ton of them, so.
I'll just start with, this past Friday we had the Black History celebration. It was very well attended and great performances by all the schools. And the MC was a good host, not just because it's a personal friend. I didn't even know she was MCing that night, but it was a really good event. It was really well attended. And of course, the students shined like they should.
I've got one I gotta mention. So last Thursday, our students went to the NLCC choir festival, and it was actually held at the district that I work in. And of course, I was really excited because I got to see, all the kids that I know. And in the middle of this lovely sing-along, the power went out because of the weather. And I have to say, I went right to the auditorium because we had like 8 different groups of kids there. I'm a little biased here because my daughter was in the group too, but I think our kids were like the best behaved out of like all the groups, including the
the school I work for. I mean, they were amazing. They weren't messing around. I mean, you know, they were on their phones and stuff, but they listened to everyone. They listened to the directions. They were in a pitch black auditorium, people. I mean, teenagers in a pitch black auditorium, you know, there should have been shenanigans afoot, and there weren't. They were great. And they followed everybody, and it was such a joy having them. And I have to say, like, even all my admin thought that they were like amazing singers. So good job, Parker.
Okay, I have to call out the guard. You know I have to. So they went to the Schaumburg competition actually back in February, and they got second place for JV and first place for varsity. But then they went to the WGI regionals this Saturday, and they placed 8th overall. So that was like a huge deal because it's a very large group that they're in. So I just wanted to call them out for being awesome. And then I wanted to call the Black History as well. But
So keep in mind for guard, they're going to regional, is it? For those guard, whatever regional.
I was just looking it up, so I was saying it
That one's
correctly.
coming up.
Their WGI Chicago Regional they went to, and they did place, so now they're regional finalists.
And they've got the show coming up, the one back in Michigan.
Flint, yeah.
So what the sectional or whatever.
In my hood. Yep. So I had to call them out.
Okay, I'll jump in then. And we already heard a lot of it with the wrestling. But just to recap, this weekend the girls wrestling individual state went down. The prior weekend was the boys. We had 2 boys that did travel to states. Junior Alejandro Cordova finished top 8 in the state in his weight class. And William Cole, sophomore, unfortunately got injured after his first match, so he had to pull out, but both of them did go down and participate in state finals. On the girls' side, I was lucky enough to be able to go on Saturday to watch the rest of those the girls' wrestling finals down in Bloomington. Freshman Riley Concal finished top 8 in the state in her classification. Amazing job as a freshman. And our own Ireland McCain finished 6th. For the second straight year, she finished and placed in the state series. On top of that, because of the relative newness of the girls' state finals, she is actually placed in the girls' state finals every year that it's been hosted by the IHSA. So both of the years, and she's only a sophomore. So definitely looking forward to seeing what she does in the future as well. But that was four of our athletes went to state and participated at the highest of levels there. Our freshmen, sophomores had 4 participants who went to Lakes and competed in the freshman sophomore tournament, which was actually held yesterday. And one of those wrestlers, Ian, actually qualified for the sectionals, so he'll be wrestling again next weekend as well. So great job there. Just a great job all around for the dedication and work. So wrestling season has kind of officially come to a close there when it comes to the high school part. But at the same time, today was the official kickoff for spring sports. So baseball, track had already started because of indoor. Volleyball actually gets started for the boys about a week later. They'll start on March 6th. But we've got all the other boys tennis. I'm trying to remember softball. I think that's most of the spring sports. Yep. Girls soccer, the one that I'll be reffing up with Grant a lot. Yeah, so again, great job all around there. And then also, not soon to be positive occurrences. Keep in mind, we've got the Milestones Masterworks concert tomorrow night in the theater. And we've got kindergarten music shows in the auditoriums on Thursday. We've got Reader's Theater performance on Friday at the high school theater. So a lot of great stuff coming up, just showcasing the talents of our district.
So you should mention, our chess team went to state as well. I mean, I know we're mentioning athletics a lot, but I don't want to forget those students as well, that our chess team.
And debate. The
Yes,
debate-
I was
the
gonna
debate and
mention that, because I
oratory.
know Carolina was one of the
Speech.
students. Yeah. I just want to make sure we shout out to those students as well.
I'm sorry if we forget anybody. We're very excited about this stuff and everybody is important. We want to shout it all out. Sometimes we just forget.
All right, I think that's going to wrap us up on positive occurrences. So next up would be any future agenda items that the board would like to have added. Hearing none, I'm going to jump to a motion. Give me 1 second here. I need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following. Employment matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C1. Real estate matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C5. Litigation, 5 ILCS 120/2C11. And closed meeting minutes, 5 ILCS 120/2C21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Larson and seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee? Yes. Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. We will convene next in closed session, and this will actually conclude our open session for the evening. So thank you, everyone. Our next board meeting will be March the 13th at 7 p.m. We look forward to seeing you hopefully here and definitely on streaming online as well. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great evening.